Welcome to Happening Multicultural Festival 2023. My name is Bänoo and I'm the poetry curator. We recognize that we live and work on the traditional indigenous territories. Muse Arts, the organization that brings you the Happening Multicultural Festival, is located on the traditional territories of Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit. I am now in Edmonton, Alberta, which is located on the traditional territory of Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, and Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe nations. As newcomers, refugees, and immigrants, we honor all the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on the land since time immemorial. Happening Multicultural Festival is the first and only Toronto festival created by community artists, giving center stage to the talent and skills of immigrant, newcomer, and refugee artists. It embraces the cultural richness of our city and creates professional development opportunities for artists. It offers a platform for organizations to connect and to form meaningful collaborations. During our poetry nights, we celebrate poets who, among other things, identify as newcomers, refugees, or immigrants. Throughout the first 3 Thursdays in May, there will be an online poetry event featuring 3 poetry readings. Despite the fact that poetry inhabits many geographical locations and speaks in different languages and accents, literature continues to be the most exclusive of arts and the most resistant against outsiders. And immigrants' linguistic, cultural, and political accents mark them as alien and hence undesirable company or colleague among fellow writers and poets. Our first poet tonight is Anindita Mukherjee, an Indian poet and writer. She's currently a doctoral student in the Department of English and Film Studies at the University of Alberta. Her debut collection of poetry, Nothing and Variations, has been featured in the Hawakal Young Poets of 2022. Her creative work has appeared in many journals and magazines, including Madras Courier, Indian Cultural Forum, and Tamasha Potrika. She is a scholar of literary and philosophical studies and has held fellowships in HRI, Royal Halloway 2021, and United States Holocaust Memorial Museum 2022-2023. She's also a classical violinist and public humanities enthusiast.
Hello everyone, I am Anindita Mukherjee. I am an Indian poet and writer, and I'm also a first year PhD student at the Department of English and Film Studies in University of Alberta. I feel very happy and privileged to be invited to read some of my poems for the Happening Multicultural Festival. I'll be reading poems both in English and Bangla, which is my native language. So, the first part of the reading would be on my poems that I write in English, and they appeared in the book Nothing and Variations, which came up in 2022. So, the first poem that I'll read for today is titled Theme for a JCB. The human species can bite on an atom bomb with 32 teeth. With luck satisfied, the wisdom tooth can walk like a carrier of flabby gums. It can bend once up and down the torso and tail. Yama's horns, Hades bident, austere and unseen. The seasons of JCB, biting bodies below, almost 30 feet deep. It can bend thrice in interstellar space. Thapar Mat. Cerberus is full and polite. The buffalo crowds my blindness. The next poem is titled Kaleidoscope. Through a mirror's passage, I built the symmetry of wind. With gulf and prophecy, I keep awake, with blind monotony creasing my diaphanous breath. The unjust hands work for words, sign they look for is the Grieg's collapse. The next poem is titled Calcutta Mon Amour. Calcutta is a place that I come from and I share a very lovely and difficult relationship with. So here it is. When you hint at monastic ruins, it's more you than the Dead Sea. It is less time carrying away more than it brings close, more than closure. Feeling time is not time passing, neither can passing time be passed. I am distilling time in a sand glass, which is older than Alexandria and Miletus, more in my head than all of life in poetry. She is free of the squabble of voices, but caught in the mood of her own. Calcutta coxcombs. Nothing immediate or blunted, neither imitative, but can be self-taught like a poet. It must be so. As members of maturity teasing an unmistakable idiom, like a new war in greased clan. Stripped to the feeling bone, I don't have the cadence for a touch unabashed. The gunfire mornings closes with words. You are tired with sleep savage, languor refusal. It was elsewhere, untranslatable. The next poem that I'll read is titled If I Told You I Completed Packing Dust. Fiction is like the woolen scarf. Poems have seen dust in the sea's night. I have put them back in the suitcase. The mump and maculate V-fixed collar thrusted by the first cousin of winter. Pullover. Nothing quixotic, a spectacle strange inside a disengaged heart. Unordered, resembling the unspreading. I have put them back in the suitcase. They are at peace. Some of them have sold their warmth as a sovereign, humble contagion, cascading like rough brushes. I have put them back in the suitcase. A long dying ends with a plundered glove. I forgot to caress its lustre. The embrace of oranges and scarce love. As you look here, distressed silence. I have put them back in the suitcase. My socks fell differently about the robust earbuds. It wasn't windy inside. You just think it isn't. I have put them back in the suitcase. They didn't fit well. Said they don't belong together. You are thinking of your Valentine. I have put them back in the suitcase. Dispelled woolen bundles after cold trysts, ruins and faceless necks. I had put them back in the suitcase. The next poem that I'll read is titled Letter Muse. Incoherence is not one word. It's incoherence. You climb upon the edifice of one letter, beginning with a hill, broken with a dash. That is A. Not A in estuary, but A in alone. The first line sings like A. The second remembers. Be kind to letters. An almost made up poem got sadder. It began to know why you cannot begin with a dash, slant it off a while, and leave it as happy death. Said, I am visited by life and rhyme, huddling like two goldfish in plain water. I wait patiently for them to yawn. They stare at me when it's truly time. There is no other way to think about them. Scream, be silent. They will become quiet in another way. The next poem that I'll read today is titled Prisms/Petrichor. Double on the leeching aeon rankle the empty quest. Sit beside the window hearth, mirror on the length of a thought. Stay uncertain, banished. Know the continual whirl amidst the yellow unearth. The next poem that I'll read is titled The Art of Grey. Unconsummate the vogue covers and sprinklers, sobriety of the clay saucer. Undo the written woo, the muddy sidewalks of Milena and Bachman. Unsavour the quiche, squall-winged imago. Unbridle, pour the impossible, and exhaust endless. Pour one eye against the mouth, ocular orgasm. The next poem that I'll read does not appear in this collection, but it is one of my other poems titled Mukhwas. Which shade is this organ J-shaped? Pale pink or rusty red? Biting bullets or hunger hostages? School exhibitions and science fairs are a drag show of human anatomy. Eventually, the perfect replica sheathed with thermocol and plastic wins laurels, clear and shining. Some break their weekly fast with sushi, pasta, noodles, whirling pancakes and truffles, harvesting a rainbow garden of pathology. Elsewhere, a mouth blows out froth from lime white bladders, and teeth carrying polished carbon bites on the retinue of veins. They gulp the spittle to taste salt in rice gruel. On rye sheaves, the belly sheds its shade and becomes redder. Colorless hunger, colorless pangs. Mukhwas in reception dinners are their rainbows. Mukhwas are their harvest. Mukhwas their prophet. The next poems that I'll read are written in Bangla, as I have already said, which is my mother tongue, my native language. And these poems appeared in January in Tamasha Potrika. And the poem that I'll read is titled Sheshir Kotha, which means the last words. And it can be about the person who has passed few minutes back and the last words you could have said but couldn't, or the last words of a meeting, the last words of seeing someone, the last words of a poem that you couldn't write. So here it goes. শেষের কথা। একটি কবিতার শেষ কথা নিয়ে আমার বিশেষ কিছু বলার নেই। আমি চাই তুমি প্রথম থেকে মাছের আঁশ ছাড়ানোর মতো লেখো, সমস্ত কিছু পরিষ্কার করে, চা খেয়ে কাপ ধোয়ার আকারে। সুদীর্ঘ লাল দাগ কেড়ে নেয় সাদা রঙের সামর্থ্য, বিবর্ণ জলে ধোয়া যায় না প্রতিবার। আমায় শূন্য করার প্রাতে কিছু বলো না, কবিতার সর্বশেষ প্রতিশব্দ নিয়ে আমার কিছুই বলবার নেই। The next poem that I'll read is titled Oshito Songbad, which roughly translates to Black News. And this is my commentary on the nature of news in today's world, our involvement and engagement in eating that news at the dinner tables and regurgitating them, how news enters our everyday conversations, and the truth, the validity, and the fictive elements that news has today. And here it goes. অসিত সংবাদ। উড়ো খবর উপড়ে গেলে গাছের নিচে সংবাদ মাধ্যম হামাগুড়ি দিয়ে ছেড়ে যাবে সাপের দাঁত। হাসি কান্নার টহল না বুঝে সাধারণ মানুষ একে অপরের কপালে দেবে টিপ, পায়ে পায়ে একসাথে খাবে হোঁচট, হাত পাখা দিয়ে খানিক চুলকে দেবে পিঠ। সেই দেখে সভ্যতাও বুলিয়ে দেবে আধবোঝা চোখের স্নেহ। তবু কেউ কখনো জানতে চাইবে না কেন ঈগলের জোড়া চোখে পিতাতঙ্ক, কেন শুধু তুমি নির্জন রাতের বিকল্প। The last poem that I'll read for today is titled Khonik, which is about a single moment, a moment before taking the leap of faith, or the moment before taking the leap of faith where you essentially lose your life by killing your own self or else committing suicide. Here it goes. কিছুক্ষণ দম আটকে রেখে শুনি ঘড়ির কাঁটার অভিব্যক্তি, যেন হাত ধরে কেবল হাওয়া শুকে নেয়। চতুষ্পার্শ্ব মিলিয়ে যায় মুহূর্তে বন্ধ চোখে, দেখি ঘরে 3টে আরশোলা ঢুকেছে, সমস্ত শরীর বেয়ে নাভির নিচে নেবে আশ্রয়। আঙুলের করে চেপে নখের কোণে দাঁড়ালে 20টি পার্শ্ব চরিত্রে একসঙ্গে মেশা যায়। বুঝি বাসি মুখে সকালে জলপানে মৃত্যু আমার সতর্ক ভাড়াটিয়ে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Our second poet tonight is Mbonisi Zikhali, who was born in Makokoba in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. His spoken word or storytelling name is Zomkonto, which is his bloodline's totem. He's also a youth mentor, qualified community services worker, grassroots community organizer, and mental wellness advocate. He is the president of the board of directors at ArtSite Inc., Windsor, Canada, which is an artist-run gallery for contemporary arts. He considers himself an Afro-empath and is driven to ensure that people find joy in the power of words and storytelling. His work was recently showcased at the World Poetry Slam Championships spoken word video presentations in September 2022 in Brussels, Belgium.
Kabatila, Mzilangata, Bangazita. Greetings, everyone. My name is Zomkondo, and I thank you for making sure my words find another home. I would love to welcome you by first speaking positivity into your lives, reminding you that you are indeed a very complex machine. Now, remember the next time that you break down that you are a complex machine, and that the tools that it takes to put you back together again are not made of metal, but soft things that do not weigh much on the scales used by this world to measure our worth. We are boundless, weightless, and your birth is a magical musical note to complete the rhythm of all creation. You are a complex machine, so breaking down is necessary because we are made of very delicate breaths, held together with the silken ropes of extremely fragile heartbeats, each trying to connect to the next with as little heavy breathing as possible, not struggling for air, but fumbling for a strength that holds together our bodies just long enough to exhale. Because we have a lifelong contract with trees, a promise that these lungs, although not made of bark themselves, the branches that hold them in place in our chest will suck in each morsel of oxygen and help us proclaim at the top of those same lungs that we are here voluntarily, that we are not forcing this living thing, that we did not arrive in this world kicking and screaming, but that it was the world that started yelling in our faces in a language we couldn't recognize. And when we became traumatized, the world still charged us for inventing our own language of love. That in our severed attempts to find meaning, life was hurling stones at our engines. And since we are not grindstone machines, we broke down. But those same stones that the world threw at us over time, we use them to build the mountains you see in front of you right now. Because rather than be buried underneath them, we built ourselves a fortress, erected rock statues out of ourselves. Instead of becoming stone-hearted, we are complex machines. There are parts of us that cannot be replaced. There are tiny screws that cannot be mimicked. The mechanics of our entire being needs more than a simple oil change. We repair our brokenness by making poems out of ourselves, wind chimes that dance from the raging thunderous feet of our resilient theme songs. We are smart, complex machines, putting the A-R-T in art and not the A-R-T in artificial. Now, I was born to a very strong woman. Her roots are in Mozambique. Now, she has convinced me that there is something about the strength of African women, and indeed women as a whole, and their resilience that is beyond the imagination. And actually, I think they say the spine of an African mother is made of precious metals larger than diamonds, which have not been special enough to mine yet. They are hidden from this world. Because with our mindset, if this very day someone got the tender to mine the tender parts of what remains after the thunder and the rain, the gender violence, the pain, the wars, the floods, the rape, the scars, the world itself would remain stagnant for centuries. Whatever magic holds up the African mother's bones, its magician has a story to tell longer than time itself, and it probably begins and ends like this. Hey, when? If I had the words to explain, I would have put them together a long time ago. So let it go, man. Let it go. An African woman can carry both the world and a child on her back. and use the 50 tons on her head as the counterweight. With all this, she walks with a lightness that allows even the smallest insects their beauty sleep. So she silently weeps so the children can dream. She walks as if not to disturb the seams of the dresses that prayers wear when running towards heaven all at once, begging for a chance to be answered. She intercepts some of them mid-flight and answers them without asking to be worshipped. Mama one, I have spent my whole life imagining the day you were born. Heaven must have taken a day off just to welcome you. I have tried to recreate the sounds the morning birds must have made. They must have spent the next day recreating your first cry, while constellations in the sky competed with your own mother's smile, Mama. Each star competing with the one next to it to outdo its shine. Mama, bathi induku enhle iganyulwa ezizwe. Kodwa imbokodo enhle kayiganyulwa mama, ulola umkhonto emhlane wayo ulwe impi yakho nje. The African mother is both a rock upon which spears of war are sharpened and where lovers sit to hear each other's name for the first time. There are diamonds yet to be mined in an African mother's eyes, hidden from this world. Because if someone threw dirt in that part of her that sees hope, the blindness that comes afterwards knows a darkness that can never be named. We would feel around for the walls as they close in on us, and all we'll ever be able to behold in our palms is darkness, a tangible razor sharpness that sees through happiness and crushes it. Mama wami, nanti izibulo lakho liyaziqhenya ngawo, wena uqobo. Your Mozambican roots have Samorama shell shoulders that carry boulders like pebbles in the hands of children. They say the spine of an African mother is made of iron that sharpens iron, made up of fragments of Harriet Tubman's dreams of the motherland, Mama. Remember when we sat at the market when you sold oranges and sweets? I stole a sweet that day. I wanted to keep a version of your sweetness within me. So I ate it in secret that same night, wishing the sweetness would stay inside me in case I leave for far away someday. And here I am, Mama. Nothing tastes sweeter, Mama one. Ungangithatheli amagama engifunga ngawo ngoba inzalo yazo zimtandane, imbali yabo ibuthakathaka. Now it's me that has grown up with a child myself. And the messages that I relay, they come from a place inside that wants to constantly remind people of that glow inside of them. And one such person who is a light of mine is my son. So I wrote this. This is a letter to my son and all the Black boys. Go ndodana yami, my son. I wish you mountains that stoop down and crumble the tufts of hair on their crown, to create beach sand for the shores that this world will not stumble into and dare to pollute. Where the music of ancient flutes is trapped in the shells that populate its blanket of pebbles and stones, which when thrown against the surface of the ocean, with each bouncing motion, whistle back secrets of the snails that died inside them, carrying hell on their backs and heaven inside their hearts. Those said to have slowed down deliberately and sacrificed themselves so their shells can become refuge for the songs whose melodies are now known for guiding the bruised hips of lost sheep back home. My son, I wish you to speak by bright words the way light was named, with sound in attendance, and that I live long enough for the chance to tell you the story of how light and sound learned to dance together for the first time, trapping the universe in a trillion light years of rhythm. My son, I wish that as you whisper your own name, you believe it, that each letter inside it is a further inside the largest wing to ever host the wind, and that when you fly, you are not distracted fighting that wind, but just enjoying the aerial view. My son, I want to take all the insults of this world on your behalf, so that you find half of the world's untruths about Black boys already shelved in a bunker somewhere. I would have walked back and forth through time to collect each falsehood and hold it captive in the underworld, not to burn a single one, but to remind you that another generation will soon need you to collect the other half. Make sure the collection is complete, then have a bonfire and invite the neighbors, all singing together, screaming to hell with the racist. My son, daughter Nayam, I wish your teenage eyes will take long walks inside the hallways of histories begging to be written, and that those that died gritting their teeth while holding onto olive branches can see you plant seeds and be proud. And that seeing you hunger to know more disarms their spirits and charms them into forgiving the trees from which the spears that dug into their chests were carved. My son, I wish you the rarest form of love, the one that plays catch with itself, throwing boomerang kisses at the sky, knowing the love will come back glowing with remnants of dying stars, and that each tiny sparkle of those dying stars will hustle its way back into the sky and become a fully blown sun. My son, I want you to know that the hourglass will always be a desert full of seconds, ticking away until you're brave enough to shatter that glass and find water. Because that's what I wish for you. I wish you water to flow towards your future, like hip-hop, like poetry. My son, I wish you an elephant's memory so that you remember to forget what they did to me. Write that debt to ancestry. Find your identity. But more than anything, my son, I wish you to remember that you are royalty. And in that spirit, I would love to leave you with this poem, which celebrates this 9-year-old daughter of a friend of mine. Now, he's a single father who wanted to convey a motivational poem to his only child, to his Black girl, called Amani. I call this one. This poem was written with feathers in mind. Your father said I should write you a poem with feathers in mind, meant to be stitched together by time into the most beautiful bird the forest could ever find. And the wonderful thing is that you get to choose whatever color this bird might be. Take your time. Because this world loves to choose colors for Black girls, right down to their favorite dress, as if someone chose to second guess if they need to be blessed, not knowing that the ends of their souls are rainbows, and that heaven still uses those ends as ribbons to tie presents for the most well-behaved of angels. Amani. Amani in Arabic means wish. Amani in Swahili means peace. So I wish you peace. And as parents, we hope that our children do not learn too young why they need peace. But even then, I pray that if the world ever made you search for a peace of mind, Amani, that you remember to think only of your name, and that your mind will recognize its echo and remain calm, remain peaceful. Your father said I should write a poem made of diamond-crusted wings, and to tell you that the worst that you can do is to make eagles go blind when you take to the sky, but that you do not be afraid to fly. Because this poem was written with feathers in mind, meant to be stitched together into the most beautiful bird that the forest could ever find. And the wonderful thing is that you get to choose its morning song. Take your time. Because this world loves to choose songs for Black girls, as if their ears cannot make out for themselves the ebony skin of melody, as if they haven't been the future fortune tellers of the greatest dances to ever trap the human body and spirit. I say, create your own music, Amani. Find your dance floor and own it. Become the lyrics to the songs of your own destiny, Amani. Your name means wish, in Arabic, and peace in Swahili. And as you blow out all of the candles of every other year, I wish your greatest wish, the light of day. May your dreams find peace of mind to come true. May you shine so bright that the light accidentally flows into the world around you, right straight back into the universe where it belongs. Somkondo, Kabatela, Zilangata, Bangazita. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for listening. Yabon.
Our third poet tonight is the Bucharest-born Diana Manole, who immigrated in 2000 and is now proudly identifying herself as a hyphenated Romanian Canadian award-winning writer, theater artist, and scholar. She holds a PhD from the University of Toronto and has been teaching at Ontario universities since 2006. The winner of the 2020 very small verse contest of the League of Canadian Poets. Her recent poetry was published in English and or in translation in 11 countries, including the UK, the US, Canada, France, Spain, and China. Praying to a Landed Immigrant God from Grey Borders books in 2023 is her 7th collection of poems and the first one published in Canada.
Hello, thank you for your interest in my poetry. I'm honored to be part of the 2023 Happening Multicultural Festival. My big thanks to Paola Gomez and the entire team, as well as to Bänoo, the poetry curator who has invited me to read today. This spring, praying to a landed immigrant God, rugându-mă la un Dumnezeu emigrant, will be published in a dual language English-Romanian edition by Grey Borders Books. It will be my first book in Canada and my 7th poetry collection. My biggest Romanian-Canadian gratitude goes to Adam J. Sorkin, who has helped me translate this collection of poetry. To honor my hyphenated identity, I will read the first poem in both languages. Prima noapte în Canada, 3 august 2000. Igrasie, apă curgând pe pereți cu miros de canal. Un tub de neon clipind enervant și ironic. Eu, ca metafora emigrării, cu genunchii strânși la piept și un zâmbet tâm. Poate că aș fi meritat un coșmar ceva mai canadian. Aer condiționat, umidificator, un wc cu hârtie igienică la capătul culoarului și săpun lichid. Sau măcar un vis în culori de fondantă. Mestec încăpățânată, gumă care a avut cândva gust de portocale. First night in Canada, August 3rd, 2000. Mold. Sewage pouring down the walls. A neon light flickers mockingly. I, immigration's metaphor, my arms around my knees and a dumb smile. Maybe I deserved a more Canadian nightmare. Air conditioning, humidifier, a washroom with toilet paper and liquid soap at the end of the hallway, or at least a dream in girly pale colors. I stubbornly keep chewing flavorless gum, once orange. The second poem I'll read is Deflowering English. I hope many of you could relate to it because it talks about being an audible minority in Canada. Deflowering English. I clumsily deflower English language word by word with my rough accent, my chronic inability to remember the proper place of modifiers, or the mysterious distinction between A and V. Revengeful, English betrays me when I ask for cigarettes at the convenience store and the young sales clerk with hot chocolate-colored skin and the face of an angel born in the wrong place winks at me just because I pronounce hello in a funny way and I carry a backpack, reminding me that English classes are more effective than self-pity and cultural differences are no biggie anymore. My computer scolds me. Check spelling as you type. Even when only trying to message my landlady, who order me to move out. On Wednesday, she said on Monday, I want you gone. I smeared her house with peasant smells. Who knew pork cabbage rolls could be unpalatable? And the chatty noise of my unnerving enthusiasm for almost everything all the time, damn it. Between the landlady and me, 7 generations of good British subjects proudly claiming her right to kick me out, no notice, despite cold weather and the tenants' rights. But off I go. A few pots and my IKEA bookshelf on my back, like an overloaded turtle shuffling from hostel to hostel with no language to call home. There is where I'd like to be, but there is always in the way. Still typing, until the screed to the landlady shifts into a poem, the biggest blasphemy of all, written in a voice borrowed from retired public library books, bought on Amazon for almost nothing plus shipping fees. The authors, torn between the exile from the bookshelves and the chance at a second life. Language gets fraught, and my besotted computer screen shows clear proof of the accidental embrace between a suspect Eastern European landed immigrant and a centuries-old enslaving device. English proudly conquers the globe one more time. The miracle of a never-ending post-colonial innocence replacement surgery. Thank God for imperial history books and modern medicine that evaporate white guilt and renew virginity with plastic. Since 2013, I've been writing poems in English. I'm happy to share some of them with you. Love in the Suburbs. Making love in the identical townhouses with thin walls and large glass doors. We spell kindness along each other's backbone. Half gestures, half breaths, muffled moans, weaving a cocoon to rebirth ourselves into the children we've craved as playmates for everything we've been trained not to do. Making love until the suburbs overhear us and go quiet in wonder. Grandma Mariwara and Cortez. Grandma Mariwara had rows of tomatoes in her backyard, though she never knew who Cortez was or that he brought the seeds to Europe from Montezuma's botanical gardens. She didn't even hear about South America, only about America at the end of the world, from where no one could ever come back. A neighbor's sons ended up there after they crossed the border, swimming across the Danube at night. And their parents mourned them like the dead, the living dead of communism. When we visited in summer, Grandma rushed to snap the neck of her biggest chicken in the yard, pick up the ripest tomatoes, and make us stew. Pomodoro, golden apples in Spain and Italy. Pomme d'amour, love apples to the French. Tomatoes to the English-speaking settlers. Affordable tomato salads all over the planet. Just one more side effect of colonialism, hidden in plain view on our dinner tables. My next poem is dedicated to all immigrant and refugee women, as well as to all victims of patriarchy and religious extremism. Immigrant Women's Eyes, a group photo exhibit. Look us in the eyes. We've walled up the gallery with their close-ups. Laughing eyes and lies laughing at themselves. Half closed at midnight, half open at 6 a.m., rushing to the English classes for beginners before the shift at the grocery store. Eyes covered with blindfolds by pretend do-gooders, hide and seek. Hide who you are and seek Western masks that fit your complexions. Eyes with eyelids in all skin shades, matching each of the births, weddings, and funerals we've missed because of overpriced flight tickets, or, in absentia, prison sentences waiting for us at the border. Eyes blackened with the blessing of gods who punish women daring to be different. No, we don't repent. We don't get it. Look us in the eyes and see. My final poem is dedicated to all brave writers who continue to write poems, helping us survive in this complex and often unfair human civilization. The misunderstanding. The next door neighbor asks me to pray together for the welfare of humankind. She doesn't believe I've long forgotten the Lord's Prayer. She gives me a book of prayers and tells me to read the text from there. She doesn't believe I can't see well because of my cataract. She starts praying and tells me to repeat after her. I wouldn't mind, but I can't understand the words. When I ask her to repeat, she gets mad. You only care about your own writing, she screams. She doesn't believe that poems produce oxygen, like plants. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you could relate to my poems.
This brings us to the end of tonight's event. Please remember that a recording of this event, along with other poetry nights and other events in the happening Multicultural Festival, will remain available on Facebook and YouTube channels of Muse Arts for future viewing. So please keep spreading the word and sharing these events with those who may be interested. Thanks to the festival director, Paula Gomez, festival coordinator, Paula Sofia Morales, Alex Oscuyano, Natalia Ruiz, and all the happening Multicultural Festival team who work tirelessly behind the scenes. Thanks to our featured poets for joining the lineup. Thanks to all who spread the word. And thank you, our audience, for joining us virtually. Have a great night or day, depending on where you are.